All right, and welcome here on broadcast.gg. It is Scrim Nights, and joining me, I'm Labosco, and joining me is LaFon as we are getting ready for Armor.gg Esports versus HumbleBrag in this matchup tonight. LaFon, how are you doing?
I'm doing very, very well, actually. And, as always, when it comes to Scrim Nights, we've got some two great teams coming up. So, should be some interesting and fun action in front of us.
Yeah, very similar as far as the SRs of both these two teams. 4.2K for HumbleBrag and for Armor GG. They're at 4,300. So we're seeing very high level play. Obviously, that means as well. And I think that's one of the beauties that we get here at Scrim Nights is not only do we get to see the teams sort of trying things out, but we also get to see extremely high level play.
Indeed. And actually, one of the few things I want to highlight, actually, before we get into sort of the structure between these two teams, we're coming into a meta that's kind of shifting.
Yes.
And so we could realistically expect to see some strange things here tonight. One thing that won't be showing up, of course, is Brigitte. She is I can't remember fully if she's been banned for this open or not, but teams just haven't been scrimming her that much as of late. So if that happens, that'll be interesting. But I don't know if that's going to be one that is played too much. But one thing to know, we did have the patch come out yesterday. A couple of small changes here and there, and so then it includes, of course, a staple of the previous meta, a diva being nerfed just a slight bit on the amount of damage she can output. I don't see that really changing how she's played, but it is definitely something to keep in mind as we sort of see the teams, sort of how they shift and try and relearn a meta that just shifted.
Right, because it's still going to make a little bit of a difference if you are the diva player because you don't have quite as much of a punch as you are used to. So I think that's one of the beauties too of Scrim Nights is watching teams as they adjust to how meta's shifted. And like you said, we are potentially having a meta shift here. Now when we do Scrim Nights here, we do sort of an open division rule set, but we don't follow it completely. It's kind of what the teams want to an extent as well, because sometimes we'll play 5-6 maps on a scrim night if teams really want to. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to cast all of them necessarily. Generally we will, but different time constraints and things like that, that's not always the case. So as far as what you are going to see as far as the rule set, expected to be similar to what you would see in open division. If you're not sure what that means, you're going to see control, escort, assault, hybrid, control, if that's what they decide to do. Of course, the teams could throw that out the window and make it not even matter because this is their scrims. So even though that's what we kind of usually see as the rule set, teams don't really have to follow it. So the one thing here, though, it looks like perhaps our first map is going to be a control map in Oasis. And, when you're talking about this meta shift, I don't know if they said Brigitte if she was going to be in or not. But regardless, Diva's very prevalent on Oasis.
Brigitte will be banned. Just a quick update, of course. She is banned for at least while she's not in competitive. That is the rule set that they are going with. So that will be the rule set that we'll be going with here as well. To note, Oasis is one of the few maps. I mean, Control in general is one of those maps where not only is dive the best option, it is oftentimes the only option. You do see some strange points. For example, Lijiang Tower Command Center comes to mind, where people play that very slow composition with the Reinhardt or the Junkrats and so on. And there are points on Oasis where that is played as well. University, I believe, is the one where people tend to do that, sort of the closed off point. But it definitely a possibility in here tonight. That said, the rest of the map tends to play out in that really hyper aggressive, that dive composition that we see so often. So yeah, I mean, I totally expect to see sort of that kind of play come in tonight.
And now let's take a look at the teams here, LaFon. And as far as both teams are concerned, looking here at first at Armor GG, they are a team that, as far as their preferred heroes go, Genji, Diva, Tracer, Winston, Lucio, Zen. And then for their bench players, Ana Zen is what those players are playing as well. We're going to see a new player for them as well. And Mac Q, who is, she is going to be one of the players for them that we'll be paying attention to, who is one of the Zen players. So as far as what they like to run, dive is definitely what they like to do. Fairly new team here as well in Armor GG, but some very good players.
Absolutely. And then on to, of course, HumbleBrag, our second team coming up. We haven't quite rounded out the roster yet in our lobby. Very shortly that shall be done. But taking a quick look at sort of what they play, I mean, more of the same in terms of the story of the heroes preferred. Tracer, Pharah, Diva, Winston, Zen, and a little bit of a flavor change here. Mercy coming up, but sort of a tit for tat, if you will, in terms of what they enjoy playing and sort of how we can sort of expect to see this upcoming, you know, hero selections be placed as we get forward towards the end of the scrim block. Again, a thing to notice is previously in historical Overwatch, we used to see a lot of deathball comps, a lot of slow comps, Reinhardt, Zarya, Roadhog, and then Diva got changed and we switched to seeing a lot more Diva in those compositions. So one thing that hasn't changed in that entire time is Diva has been prevalent pretty much in every single flavor that we've seen so far, aside from like very early on in Overwatch history, sort of before the Diva changes. Since then, Diva has been just a mainstay, and I expect to see her a lot more tonight, nerf notwithstanding.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was like, I don't think the nerf effects are too much, like you said earlier, where you won't see her kind of be put out. But does it open opportunities for other tanks to maybe get a little bit more playing time because you're not maybe going to get as much damage, even though it's not a big difference? Does that make enough of a difference? I guess.
I think the one thing, yeah, I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I think what's actually going to happen is not that Diva is going to be played less, because Diva does so many things so well. Like, think historically when she was first changed, they gave her, what was it, 600 armor, I believe, or it was 500 armor, 100 HP is what she had in her health pool. So they had she didn't have micro missiles then though, so she had a longer defensive matrix and more armor, no micro missiles. So her gameplay there was literally just stay on the front line, spam down with left click, nullify everything with right click. It was 6 full seconds of unmitigated damage absorption from everything not named Zarya, Symmetra, or who was the last one that wasn't affected by it?
Well, Moira, but she wasn't in it.
Moira wasn't in the game then. Yeah, no. So, Reinhardt, technically.
Oh, yeah, yes, right, yeah.
So she played a very different style then. She was, just in the front line, eating everything. Then whatever she couldn't eat, she just soaked up with the sheer amount of armor. And then she was nerfed a little bit, or she wasn't nerfed, she was reworked. They added micro missiles, lessened the amount of time she could use defensive matrix from 6 to 3 seconds, and then she was also had her armor reduced. And we saw her sort of game style change a little bit. She went from being that, that just sheer HP presence that just ate damage, to suddenly a burst assassin with 600 HP and 3 seconds of damage mitigation. So we saw her game style change, right? We saw her be able to play super aggressively, only peeling slightly, where she would burst down the enemy Zenyatta, burst down the enemy backline, and then nullify key ultimates with her defense matrix or key damage with her defense matrix. Then we see a change. I think what we're going to see here now is we're going to see less hyper aggressive Divas, because she doesn't have nearly the same amount of damage that she did before. Right. Again, for those who are unaware for what the nerf was, Diva's micro missiles they reduce the amount of damage they do on impact from 6 to 4, and her boosters, so her ability to fly in, was also the amount of damage reduced from 25 to 10. So she deals less damage in a 1 versus 1 scenario. I guess less damage on average entirely. But one thing I think that we're going to notice now, she's going to play less aggressively, though she can still, interestingly note, she can still deal a ton of damage to enemies Zenyatas. That's something that has not been really changed, because Zenyatta is such a small hitbox and so immobile. So that's a thing to note. But so I think that we're going to see more passively played Divas in this case, rather than those super aggro that we saw in the past. The one thing that I think the reason why I think she's going to continue to play is because just of how much she does. She's in the air, she high ground contest, all that kind of good stuff, and still has all her damage mitigation properties that you'd require from a tank.
Yeah, and of course the mobility as well that she still has is something that you can never really. Mobility is so important in Overwatch. It's talked about all the time, and when you have a tank that can really do that, is we're about getting ready to go here into Oasis. We'll see what we end up getting as our first map here, but we could see some more Diva, like you said, and see how the changes affect these teams. And we're going to go to Gardens first here, LaFon. So what do we look for here?
Gardens is one of those maps where historically Pharah has been played a lot. In fact, she is the most common pick on this point. I guess unsurprisingly, just due to how much high ground there is and how much cover, actually vertical cover, there is for people to hide behind. So Pharah is very common on this point, and of course, when you have a Pharah, you always play her with or I shouldn't say always. Historically, it is most common to play it with a Mercy. So that Farm Mercy combo. So I expect to see something like that come out here on Gardens. It is not entirely uncommon, of course. And then, of course, when you're running a composition like that, you're usually running it with a dive composition. So a Tracer, Diva, Winston, and then usually a Lucio to help your ground forces be either sped up or healed out in sort of what we see. And so, looking to Gardens, I kind of expect to see that kind of thing come out. And on our screen, of course, we see sort of a mirror composition from what these two teams are bringing. So it will be, of course, HumbleBrag in red, just for our viewers at home, and Armor.gg in blue for this map specifically. As, a good close map, and it seems one with sort of similar strategies coming from these teams.
Yeah, and usually that's what you're going to see on a map like Gardens as well, because like you said, Pharah is so prevalent on the map. So generally it's comp versus comp, and it comes down to whose positioning is better and who can just find those picks early, as both Tracers meet here early on to start off this fight, as both teams going onto the point to start things off.
In the air, of course, that Farm Mercy, so HumbleBrag will be playing a little bit lower. The two Phars going after each other, seeing two directs after the other. On the ground, meanwhile, the teams are slowly skirmishing away. Not really much in terms of advantage yet. Mac going down very, very low, and he will fall. And so that is the one Winston out. The D-Mech comes in, so Armor.gg slowly starting to eke away a victory here in terms of sheer health pool on the point. And following up, Muller T comes in with another kill, doing a lot of work here on Tracer, already having that Pulse Bomb. So really aggressive start for Armor.gg as they come in, and PG1 forced to retreat, and it's going to be Chinchilla just falling there. Not a lot able to be done right now, and Ultimate Economy even looking at it, Muller T doing a lot of work there in that first fight.
Arl was able to get a lot of those direct shots onto the opposing Pharah, but not only that, was able to help chip in damage on the targets down below. But the big thing that started the whole thing off was winning that early fight and then just continuing to snowball that. They take this point path and start to build up now up to 20%. As the next fight starts to go here, a little bit of poking coming on. PG1 looking for a target. Jumping in now is Mac, trying to get that Diva Mac down, and now Jack now taken out of there as the barrage coming in, quickly eaten up though from Chinchilla, as Arl was the one who was able to help get Jack out. So they look to continue to hold on to this point as they're starting to win this fight. The counter on the barrage, though, nothing from Arl there. So as I say that, of course, things swing back for HumbleBrag as they have a chance.
Long extended fight continuing, however, and it's going to be, again, reminder, HumbleBrag needs to gain control of the point. This long ground skirmish does not do them any favors, but a huge self-destruct comes in to clear up two remaining players. That's going to be a full reset for HumbleBrag. A thing to note, of course, is Armor.gg has control of this point. So they will be willing to extend this skirmish for as long as possible, force ultimates out of HumbleBrag, and there's really not much HumbleBrag can do. Again, this is one of those game modes where if you have control of the point, you're winning, regardless of the fight's going in your direction or not. All that you have to really do is manage your ultimates, and so right now, HumbleBrag is up against the wall with 75% against them on the control percentage. So looking for that first entry point. Chinchilla in the air, no longer having the Mercy Pocket on him, is going to go down as a result. So the Pulse Bomb whiffs yet again. PG1 has not been getting value out of these Pulse Bombs. Two having gone down by now, and this is just going to be a cycle of ultimates in this regard. And again, Armor.gg is rotating their ultimates cleanly, efficiently, and they're going to force another reset here from HumbleBrag. We're up to 93%. PG1 needs to be able to get to the point. That's going to be unfortunate. Without that Tracer, they're going to rely on a Monkey just to tick over overtime. And that's going to be nearly all she wrote. They're not really in a position they need. Corey, Sound Barrier is out, does get it just before it dies. But it's going to be a close fight. Malachi picking up another one, and Arlia with the second kill spells all but certain defeat here. Jack with self-destructed over the top. Everyone just hides from that, however, and Valkyrie to keep Jack in mech for as long as possible. Overtime ticking in that overtime timer as expected. And this is going to be HumbleBrag struggling. Valkyrie now out for HumbleBrag, and Armor.gg just in that cleanup at this point. They are taking quite a bit of time. Not a lot of kills coming in. The Resurrect comes through, and there it is. Finally, Armor.gg picking up 3 more kills, and that should be all she wrote now for HumbleBrag as Chinchilla forced off the point and into the spawn room. Objective 1 to Armor.gg.
I want to go back really quickly. You were talking about PG1 and how the Pulse Bomb didn't connect, and they were actually at an alt advantage at that moment there, where they had not only the Pulse Bomb, but they had the Sound Barrier, and they were actually closer their alt economy was doing better at that point from Armor.gg, but like you said, they were able to use the alts that they did have for Armor.gg so well. Mac with a Primal Rage did a ton of work, and that's all that was needed, and they were able to take that, and they're asking for a sub in, or now they're asking for a pause as well right now, as I wonder if somebody is maybe having issues on the side of HumbleBrag.
Looks like they'd be subbing Marcus in for Corey here on this second point. And so that should be the one thing that did require the pause. And so a return to form should be here ever so shortly.
But looking at where we are at now, though, LaFon, we're going to City Center now, and that's another place where more than likely you're going to see the Pharaohs again. And actually, we do have Pharaohs on both sides, as we're just about ready for those doors to open.
2, 1.
So there's going to be a small change as Marcus goes over to the Diva. Jack switching over to a Lucio. So some changes happening here, and perhaps it's going to be an early egress to the side. PG1 over the top, looking for that first entry pick. These two teams skirmishing for positioning rather than any sort of control percentage at the moment. Of course, control point hasn't unlocked yet, so it's going to be Chinchilla zoned out further. And HumbleBrag do get the first kill, so this could be a large opening for them as they do posture up, trying to find some more space to force Armor.gg out. Chinchilla now left free to spam as there's no ground damage left for Armor.gg, and with that, PG1 will take the opening and pick off a kill here. So Mac out, D-Mac comes in on Stegs as well, and this should be all she wrote on this first capture, at least for HumbleBrag in this regard. And with the cleanup of just Swimmer, Mac Q, and Arl Arlier are the last two left, though Muller T coming back in for a kill, but not nearly enough, taking the advantage of his counterpart in Tracer. And so now counting up on that control percentage, HumbleBrag will take first fight.
Yeah, they took that first fight. Marcus on the Diva has been pretty good so far as well. We've seen a lot of important things eaten up by that defense matrix, and also some good damage put out. So even though you have a little bit less damage, it doesn't mean there isn't important damage that the Diva has to do. So something to pay attention to as we move on into the next fight, as ultimates are starting to come up. Valkyrie is up here, but the barrage going to be used here by Arl, quickly eaten up by Marcus. So good use of damage mitigation there, and also flying in to take out the Farah. Farah does get res though by Mac Q, she's able to get up there to get that res back off. So still even here. Sound barrier to try and keep everybody up. A PG1 falling early could spell disaster. Muller T with the pulse bomb as well, swinging things in favor. The self-destruct by Marcus will at least get one, but things are starting to go in favor of the team trying to retake that primal rage here. Knocks into Bokan quickly into a rocket as well. He was knocked into by Mac. So they just have to clear the point here and they'll take this back.
Marcus and PG1, the only two left alive on point. Marcus not long, however. This is going to be D-Max right there. Does eat, however, at the last moment, a quick ultimate, it seems. Perhaps one I did not quite catch. However, there is going to be, the point continues ticking over as Jack does get back in time. Boken will come in after Jack to just continue the stall out. So they're going to be playing for time here, playing for control percentage rather. They do kill him, but another one of the stagger comes in, and they're going to finally get the, I say. Excited does bring out the stall. PG1 does get back on time before the continued over, and so they forced at least 3 more ultimates out of Armor.gg, taking it to 94%, so they are one fight away from taking that point. One thing to note, that all started because PG1 kind of died in traffic and forced Excited to come and res him sort of out of that fight entirely, so a very awkward situation, but they do eke out 94%, so a long extended fight, as is common on these control points.
That was definitely one way to sort of just take that fight and turn it into a positive, even though they were going to lose it. But now they have to try and win this one here, contesting the point, of course, using in a good spot with Chinchilla for the barrage. Does get one, but Arl able to punish him afterwards for it, and they're not going to be able to clean. They're going to clean this up, sorry, for the side of Armor or GG, and they'll hold on to the point. So good fight win for them, even though ultimates were forced in that previous fight.
The only thing there, Stagger Mark said here, oh, not quite as long as I thought they may have, but the only thing that HumbleBrag really used in that fight was the barrage to Swimmer's sound barrier. So, again, that's a one-for-one trade. You pull out a relatively low-value ultimate in barrage relative to the one that you didn't use in turn. So, you know, that's a trade that HumbleBrag is willing to take. Again, they only have to take one fight win here to capture this point realistically. So, coming in, there's that Valkyrie. They're going to be using that offensively. Self-destruct over the top. Will it find value? Not quite, as it lands on the ridge of that city center. And the the barrage from from Arlia doesn't really find any value. He's killed immediately, essentially. And right now, looking very, very valuable right now for HumbleBrag. They pick another one. Mercy on Mercy kill there at the very end. Excited. Primal Rage is out. Self-destruct over the top. Will it find? Finds Jack. Not a huge look. Chinchilla now looking over the top, trying to find some more of those direct rocket kills, or direct rocket hits from that Pharah. And HumbleBrag right now in control of this fight. They do have that 94% counterplay, so Arlia is going to have to come in over the top. Does touch it out. They have extended that overtime timer, but not in time, as they do flip it over. So this is last fight regardless, and MacQ goes down, as does Muller T. This is looking disastrous for for Armor.gg here, as they are falling to a man. Overtime is in effect, and so Mac on point, can't stay alive much longer, as it's just Swimmer and Stags, the only two left alive, and they are going to be removed post-haste, as Muller T just gets back, gets hit by one rocket. No pocket on him at the moment, so that does not equal a kill. But with the force off, Stags not able to stay on point, and objective 2 goes to HumbleBrag.
That's a really good job there by HumbleBrag to take that one back. I mean, Armor.gg was in a very tough position there. They actually did have a little bit of time to maybe group up. Arl was going for that stall, but actually didn't really need to, and the rest of the team tried to catch up with Arl, which unfortunately caused them to lose 2 people early. So it was just a bit of unfortunate circumstances that they end up not being able to be full force really for that final fight. And when you can't be that, HumbleBrag picked them apart and took advantage of it.
I think it's a bit of a miscommunication there from Armor.gg. You have to realize that they don't have a 99%. You can give up that point, take that extra 3 seconds, and take a fight to 6, as opposed to having, 2 go in a little bit early. But we are on to University now, our 3rd and final point, and it seems a bit of a combination here for differences in the teams. It's going to be some more of that tank play. The Ryan versus Ryan, they decide to play the tight corner. So a huge brawl goes in. The hook from PG1 comes out, and the death rolls back around. So HumbleBrag in great positioning here as they take the first 2 kills. And they're going to take positioning up early, trying to find more kills as they push Armor.gg back to their spawn, and they send Stegs the hard way. And they are going to take first capture here on University.
It went off a little bit early there, did Chinchilla, but they do get it building up now. So a very good look with that triple tank working so far against the death while they're seeing it on the other side. But this Riptire here, that chance to at least maybe even things early on, if you can find that early pick, but have to hurry with it. Arl's running out of time with it, does find somebody, actually finds 2, and that leads to a quick take for Armor GG. So very good use out of that ultimate. And Riptire Lafont, so dangerous, you have to sort of give the respect to it.
Now, HumbleBrag is going to go right back in as they pick up 2 kills for themselves. They decide to say that this fight's going to be won. They're going to have their players back in time first. They're going to choose to use the whole hog and Coalescence. They zone out Armor.gg, and Armor.gg just collapses off the death of a separated teammate, and they get equal value on the point, but nothing more, as HumbleBrag makes a great read and just finds the out-of-place players and kills them, and then takes the fight right back. So PG1, again, going to stall out that next fight a little bit later, as Muller T gets taken out, at the last moment.
And that's a huge stagger as well. I mean, McCree is a character who already takes a long time to try and get back to the point anyway, so to get him staggered out is definitely putting them in a good decision. Like you said, it was a really good read on their part, seeing that there were players out that they could take advantage of, even though they ended up getting a double kill. There is the Earth Shatter, then the Counter Shatter that stops anybody from getting taken out by the Graviton Surge, so things pretty even here now, as now the High Noon coming in. Graviton Surge, though, by Armor GG does at least get 1. Deadeye's coming out on either side. Chinchilla getting a little more value out of his, though, and Armor GG being forced back.
Armor.gg using an ultimate that in a fight they've already lost. This is a very questionable decision-making, as Mac is caught in yet again by a hook. He's going to be boosted out, however, and so they do manage to keep him alive. But that is a very unfortunate situation. That's ultimates you wish you had, and off the back of a great block, they don't manage to get any value from the Earth Shatter. Riptire coming in over the top. They are very close to each other. Riptire over the side. It's coming for a far flank, and a great kill by Marcus there to keep himself alive from the Riptire. Taking out the kill. Muller T takes out his compatriot, rather. McCree on McCree action, the flashbang, first shatter yet again. Mac finding some more value, so they are going to finally switch it over, but that took a lot longer, I think, than Armor.GG wished for. As Broken, the only one left alive, they are going to stagger this out to 99, finally taking it over. But a very, very aggressive. Those are some small mistakes that Armor.GG is making in ways that they really shouldn't be, and that's really allowing HumbleBrag to bring this right back around.
I give a lot of credit, though, to Matt Q, because you were talking about that ultimate that they didn't want to use, but they had to in order to keep Matt up in that fight. It's a very long time to wait for a Reinhardt to come. It would have been a huge stagger, so the Coalescence at least keeps him up. He ends up getting a good shatter in this next fight, and now they have a Coalescence again, so we'll see if that ends up coming into play here. Arl getting that kill onto Chinchilla early on, helping them at least force back this team, but like you said, you got to be able to win this next fight, otherwise it's pretty much game over.
That's just going to be a reset there. So a bit of a change in philosophy. One team running the 2 tanks, one running the 3 tanks. But the Junkrat's the one coming out right now from Arl, picking up a bit of a random kill, I think. Chinchilla not really expecting those grenades coming in. He does go down yet again. Hammer down block again, and Miller T is going to come with that high noon. Doesn't cancel it, pulls off the kill yet again on Marcus, and HumbleBrag just out of sorts right now. They pick up 1, but it's going to be not nearly enough, and this is going to be very unfortunate for Boken, as he gets knocked off the high ground, but does get searched out and destroyed by Arlia on that Junkrat.
And the big thing is, too, LaFon, they didn't use any ultimates really there to win that fight. They still have Coalescence. They have a Sound Barrier as well. And, of course, Riptire, we know, can be such a big game changer. So a lot of ultimates on their side. There are some important ultimates on the other side, too. Graviton, Surge, not to mention Sound Barrier and Coalescence.
Chinchilla off the McCree, now on the Tracer. So a bit of a change. There comes that Riptire out, but it's immediately destroyed by the Tracer. They're coming in with the Graviton Surge. Picks up value. 2 kills coming in right away. Counter Graviton Surge overtime is in effect. A huge Earth Shatter from Mac, but he is taken out before he can do any value with it whatsoever. And right now, this is going to be a very aggressive play. Boken's chasing down Stags. Stags does go down, and that's going to spell disaster, as the only one left alive here is Swimmer. Has to stall it out. There's no one there but him, and that's going to be it. Mochi gets back in the nick of time. Not nearly enough, however. The recall forced out, and he just stands around. And that will be HumbleBrag bringing it back and taking the victory.
I think you have to give credit there on that one to the side of Chinchilla. I mean, Chinchilla taking out that Riptire when he did was huge, because that's like we said, you know, Riptire's still the one ultimate that really can change the face of a fight, even things that aren't going well. Well, you have somebody using it in what they think is an advantageous position, but instead they take out the tire, and that sort of just swings everything back in favor. The ultimates are even then, and then it's an even fight, and they're able to win out of it.
So it looks like we are playing a best of 5, of course. So
5,
to reset back to this point here.
2, 1, round 4.
Get a little more fair versus fair, LaFon.
A little bit more fire versus fire, indeed. PG1 back on the Tracer, of course. So it's going to be a different look here. I guess the same look. We did see this exact same composition from both these teams in the previous time we saw the stage. And so...
And I think this is with the map that Marcus came in on as well. And that's sort of when we saw things sort of switch in favor of HumbleBrag, as they started doing a lot better with him on the Diva. So we'll see if that continues here, if they can get another win on this map. Steeg's coming in here to block some of the damage, and they do take out the mech of Marcus here early on. So a little bit of the broadcaster's curse there, trying to continue to win this fight though for Armor GG, as they at least got the Diva out of mech, but they haven't been able to find any eliminations yet. Both Fairs in the sky trying to do something. Muller T, though, getting that pick onto PG1 could be the thing that swings this in favor of Armor GG. It's at least going to kite back the team in HumbleBrag, and you'll have Armor GG taking this Coalescence here to try and take out some extra targets.
One of the things to note there is because Marcus was DMech first, they actually won the spam war. That Armor.GG, that is. And so even though the fight was taking a very, very long time, and even though Marcus did get remeched, there wasn't a whole lot that HumbleBrag really could do beyond getting spammed out. There was no ultimate play coming in from them, especially on first fight. There are ultimates online now, and of course Coalescence was used from the side of Armor.GG. But again, when you don't have that demon mech, you can't really deny that damage, and so HumbleBrag just got spammed out from the point and allowed position to be taken by Armor.GG. But then that next fight coming in is a very aggressive play here. They're going to start using Valkyrie hard, HumbleBrag, as Chinchilla comes in with the kill over the top, and Arlia does pick up 2 for his value, however. Sound Barrier now used from Armor.GG to continue to use their ultimates in a somewhat expensive fight, but they do continue to gain control percentage. And this is going to be a reset now, it seems, or at least a temporary one. from HumbleBrag. PG1 looking for that 1v1 versus Muller, and not willing to take it. Muller, of course, seeing the mercy, decides not to take that. Not a good value for him. As the fight engages, Pulse Bomb on Vulcan, forces the Primal Rage out. Self-destruct, sorry, Sound Barrier over the top. Barrage not finding nearly enough beyond forcing the Sound Barrier out yet again. And Vulcan picks up a jump pack kill on a Pharah for some reason. As, however, it is going to be Armor.gg coming out victorious in the end of all of this.
I think it's interesting. You were talking about the fact, Lafon, that they used a lot of ultimates in that last fight. It seems they're very confident, though, in their ult usage if they're going to build up to some more ultimates, because we saw them build up to a couple there. They build the Coalescence so fast, does Matt Q. She has been building those up incredibly quick, already to 30%. To her next one, she just used it. So we'll see if the ult advantage here can at least help HumbleBrag try and take this back. They haven't been able to take the points once. Self-destruct over the top, doesn't get anything. Muller T, though, finding Jackson. One of the supports down here early on. Self-destruct onto the point in desperation from Marcus, does at least get Swimmer, so maybe a chance here for the side of HumbleBrag as Chinchilla is able to find two. Stakes does the Chinchilla afterwards, but is it going to be enough is the question. Probably not. There's Armored Esports continuing to take out the kills, and they do take this and even it up 2-2.
One thing to note there that really was unfortunate for HumbleBrag is they lost their support before that fight even started. So they started that fight at a disadvantage, 6v5, or 5v6 rather, and as a result, even though they got the next two kills, they just were really not in a position to heal that chip damage up beyond what Excited really could do on Mercy. And so, just not really a whole lot there for HumbleBrag to take value of in terms of how they were able to run that fight. So, Armor.gg played it smart, played around, you know, sort of what they were able to do, and just grinded out a fight win on something that they had the advantage in the whole time.
And getting Chinchilla even after he gets the 2 picks, you know, in that sort of a comp that they were running, the McCree is so important as far as their damage output. So you take out that McCree, it's a lot of damage that's gone from their comp.
However, we are seeing a different change up here on this 5th and final point as Chinchilla going over to the Tracer with PG1 on the Genji. So a mirror composition actually, as Arlia is also on the Genji, and so Excited, however, on the Zen compared to Mac Q on the Moira. Right now, Armor.gg in full advantage as they would take the fight and the fight win, and so not really a great opening there from HumbleBrag. They don't even take much damage on the board, as evidenced by the ult percentage and economy, and so Armor.gg in a very aggressive and good position here as they take first control of our 5th point.
Muller T and Arl were able to do a lot of damage in that early fight, so very good start for them. Have the positioning now with the Winston and the Genji to go jump on a backline target. They found their target in the Lucio, or in the Zenyatta, excuse me. So Zenyatta taken out quickly, then Lucio of Swimmer taken out by PG1. So now coming back is the rest of the team in the dive, but are they going to be able to get back in time to take out the rest of these targets, even though they get the Zen? Not looking good as Marcus able to take Mac and get Steaks out of Mac. So it looks like HumbleBrag will be able to get this, even though they got that early Zen kill.
Last 2 supports left on the point. Muller T does get the Lucio, so that is dangerous here. Swimmer does contest it out some more Chinchilla on him, however, as Mac Q, Lust, finally goes out. They are going to continue staggering this fight. A great stick on the Winston is going to force him to die immediately. So Chinchilla looking to find some more value on this damage. Swimmer finally going down to a melee, and that's going to be it as the self-destruct out, but the death comes in, so that will be finally point captured perhaps. Arlia, yet again, on point contested, do force Primal Rage out, so a great showing, again, that stagger from Armor.gg to continue point. I think to note, however, that last fight, the reason why it actually went in HumbleBrag's favor is the Zen dying was very much a bait. If you noticed, he was nearly at his spawn. Excited was nearly at the spawn for HumbleBrag, and they sent 3 people after him. So that was a sacrifice that HumbleBrag was willing to make. 3 players for 1, it's entirely valuable for them, and they took the fight on point.
Exactly, and that was definitely the difference, because it takes too long to get back to the rest of the team. PG1 popping the Dragon Blade here, quickly gets Swimmer. Bokan able to get Moira as well. So the support's quickly out of the picture. The rest of the team falling there. Mac just going to take his own life, because I think he knows that the respawns need to happen here quickly.
Sound Barrier was invested. They use it alongside the Dragon Blade to keep the Genji up. PG1 finding value. 3 kills, in fact, with that Dragon Blade. So they don't really pull anything out, but they do continue to build point percentage. And so It's going to be a recontest. They do have the Transcendence do HumbleBrag here for the Counterblade. And so that is definitely something to keep in mind here in this next fight.
Go diving onto that back line here early on as well. Couple lessons popped here. They get the Zen out before the trans could be used, so things going well, at least at the start here for Armor GG, but self-destruct on the point with Chinchilla helping maybe swing things at least even now. It's just a matter, though, of getting the Diva and the Tracer out of the picture, and Armor GG can take this back, but the respawn's starting to come back in. It looks like it's going to be an opportunity here for HumbleBrag to maybe try and swing this back in their favor, but Mac dealing the damage out, puts the bubble down as his team starts to regroup. Only problem is the rest of his team's not there, and HumbleBrag has been able to get the better of it and now force them off the point. Now Muller T, the only one on there with Mac, as they're just trying to stall, as they're trying to regroup as well. Back and forth it goes.
Very unfortunate thing, and PG1 is going to continue to stall. They do get it to 99. They do use the primers. They're looking to take this fight, actually. I thought they may have reset, but no. The Transcendence is out. They want to win right here, and they may actually be able to do it. 2 down. It's just left. The self-destruct comes in over. Will they be find anything with it? No. Steg doesn't find any value whatsoever. Does get the rematch. Chinchilla over the top. Overtime is in effect. Mac does go down. It is only Stegs. That is a great read from HumbleBrag. Steg is the only one left alive. Discord on him will be DMAC immediately. The Pilot Diva is sort of bullied out of position there. A reload perhaps from nearly everyone. Self-destruct, sorry. Sound Barrier is out to counter the Dragon Blade, as although not finding any value with that whatsoever. Mochi comes back in time. Overtime ticking away. Does touch at the last moment. Picks up 1 kill. The counter Dragon Blade out from PG1. Just swiping away at the Primal Rage. Self-destruct in for Marcus as they zone people out of the point and take the map. HumbleBrag winning this one in a close fashion, 3-2.
That was an insane final fight because, like you said, it looked like there was maybe an opportunity there where Armor GG was going to be able to flip that back, but HumbleBrag, like you said, they saw an opportunity that they were going to have the number advantage, even though it was pretty even on the point. They pushed it, and they end up getting the win there. Just the way that ended was crazy, and see the play of the game here, the triple kill from Stags from Armor GG, but, I mean, I think both teams have to be very happy with how that gone. That was close the entire way.
It was very close. I think one of the things to note there is HumbleBrag was very decisive. And I mean, in a way that you don't really see these days, actually. You see, at least not in North American teams, where a fight realistically should not be won, but they come back and they pick up 2 kills. I think they were very, very weak, and they got spammed out from the damage Jack was able to put down, who was on Lucio, of course, and pulled up 2 kills, and they said, no, we're investing in this fight right here, right now. They invested the Primal Rage, they invested the Transcendence, and then they came out on top. So there was a clear call in that last fight. We're going to go for this. And they went for it, and they went for it cleanly. So I think it's something that it's fun to see when it happens, especially when you think, you're conditioned to think historically, 2 players down, okay, that's a reset, especially when your opponent, you know, sort of seems to have the numbers advantage and the ultimate advantage. But you know, kudos to HumbleBrag. There was a call there that says, no, we can win this, and then they won it.
And that's also great trust from the rest of the team too, for HumbleBrag to not only listen to that call but go for it, because if you have any hesitation in that fight from just one player, you lose that fight. So the fact that they were able to not only respond to that, but go for it completely and just buy into the call that was made is so huge from a team. It's been fun so far. And I think Armor GG at times too, there were some moments where they had similar things where there was some really good calls made, and they went and they had some good opportunities. But I mean, like you said, HumbleBrag there at the end, that's a game winning decision.
Decisive, clean, and most importantly, executed to perfection. So that put a cap on Oasis in grand fashion. But as always, we head to our next map. And, hey, from the streets of the Middle East somewhere to the streets of Mexico somewhere, we have Dorado as our next map. And so, colors will stay the same. HumbleBrag will be in red and Armor.gg in blue as the teams ready up and let us know. So what are you expecting to see here? Dorado, of course, a famous map historically in Overwatch, one of some very exciting matches played out on these rather mean streets, though quiet they are, before the game starts. And it's a pure escort map. So what do you sort of expect to see coming in from these two teams as, from what they've played so far? How do you sort of see them approach how they come into this next map?
Well, it seems like we could probably see quite a couple different things from them. I mean, Dorado is one of those maps where there are a couple of options of what you decide to play. You could potentially see the Orisa come out on defense. You could, you usually normally will see a dive with some sort of maybe a Widow or the Pharah come out potentially on the offensive side. I think that you're probably just going to see dive v dive. Maybe you have, Arl's showing us Junkrat, which is something that is possible here. But other than maybe that first little choke, it doesn't really usually pan out too well. But there are definitely multiple options here. But both these teams tend to like the dive. I think at least on the offensive side, you should see dive.
And I think we'll take a moment from the offense to a quick glance at what the defense is running. I do not think we will be seeing Mac on Symmetra in the next part on defense. As much as there are some claims, that it's quickly dismissed. We are seeing a bit of an anti-dive composition coming out from Armor.gg rather, as my mind takes a quick blank, trying to think of the strategy instead. They're running the Orisa, Roadhog, Junkrat, and Orisa. So, Moira and Orisa. So a bit of a look here, as it seems Moira is going back to spawn. I think they're going to be changing to a Mercy, perhaps, who is a little bit more allows to. That is going to be indeed what they're going to be running. Mercy, of course, allowing them to undo some mistakes that are perhaps met from the safety of Orisa's barrier shield in this composition. So that anti-dive combo coming back up as the offense looks to run a dive comp with a Widowmaker. So some long-range damage available here. Chinchilla over the top, takes a look, sees a large Orisa shield in her face, and takes a crouch.
It's the one good thing, though, as a Widow, is that there are going to be sight lines with that Orisa shield that you can maybe try and expose. And, of course, going to that and thinking about that is Arl. So they end up meeting each other. So that will at least force the Widow away. So that's a lot of time it's going to be wasted just trying to get into a position to deal damage out as the Widow for Chinchilla finally gets into an area now, but has to find a way around the shield. That's the biggest thing for the Widow right now. So defensively, you're okay with this. This allows you to spam out the damage that you want to do. Chinchilla trying to get set up, almost took theirs. Steve's just missed it. Good avoidance of that by Chinchilla. But as far as the defense is concerned, they just need to try and win a fight here. Marcus, though, getting the pick onto the Mercy. A good start to that. Now, finally, the defense starting to get some picks of their own. They should be able to hold here.
One thing to note is that with the positioning of this barrier here, alongside this taco tortilla stand, or I guess it's tortas tacos, as it were. Regardless, this little outcropping, there is not a whole lot for the Widowmaker to take a look at. She either sees the taco stand or she sees a giant shield, with just a tiny little space here beside the tree for where she can shoot at. So a rotation there, a very calculated rotation by Armor.gg to give up that first choke point. In return, they get a lot of cover from the Widowmaker. So now it's on PG1 to really force the issue and find some damage. There was a good dive, but with the sheer damage output of the Junkrat, they really quickly shut that down.
You're going to probably eventually see Chinchilla switch off of this Widow unless they can find some picks here in this next fight. If this fight doesn't go their way, that's probably when you see it. Visor out here. Rez coming in onto Arl, who got taken out by Bokan, so still even in the fight. Self-destruct into the middle of the area there. Nobody able to get taken out, but Bokan does manage to find Molar T. Arl's tire taken out, and Transcendence here to keep everything up. So the fight's starting to go the way of the offensive team Stakes, with the whole hog trying to stall out here a little bit, and Mac over with the supercharger, able to get two, or at least, sorry, 1.5. That's the Mac and then the Diva. So at least things kept here for the defense at the moment. But if the offense can get back quickly, they might have a chance here.
Offense does have the advantage of having, I guess the spawns are about even at this point, but offense is back already, and of course, Chinchilla is now able to free fire with that Widow Bokan, zoning out the two remaining heroes. The Primal Rage is not able to be used in time. A brilliant hook comboed with the Discord Orb means that Stags was able to get the kill on the Winston, I should say. Primal Rage not in effect, but Chinchilla in that background, now without the shield to worry about, is able to free fire in, picks up 2 kills. The Resurrect does come through on 1, but it is not nearly enough. He's taken back down right after the Resurrect, and so now with the ultimate from Widowmaker, that infra sight. They are able to see where the defensive team is posturing, and that's going to mean a couple of kills coming in. Arlia goes down, and now Steg's the only one left on cart. The hook, it does connect, but before he can find any damage with the shot, with a scrap gun, the Stegs is killed, and so point A will be finally taken, and it will be switched by the defense to a dive composition now. Counter Widow in effect from Arlia, as PG1 cleans up the stagger, and Muller T will go down.
And the street space here is definitely an area where you have to go Widow v Widow. It's so much of a better area for the Widow to get set up. There's a lot of high ground that can be used to try and shoot people as they're coming from spawn. So a good switch, I think, by the side of Armor GG. They had a very good first hold. They can still turn this into a good second one on the street space because you still have a short timing, 240 on the clock here, but a lot of ultimates on the side of HumbleBrag as they're going to kite back as they're still trying to get this card around to the area where this next fight's going to happen.
However, they do pull down the entirety of, or nearly the entirety of the team with the Tracer, I believe, coming to card. Transcendence is forced out, and that's going to be the counter Transcendence as well. Are they coming out in the Widow v Widow battle? Takes down now, he's going to be able to free fire, picks up Jack yet again. Will he be able to pick up more? Not quite finding the next kill that he wants. Does get the headshot off on Winston, a very nice one, but not enough to kill him. Pulse Bomb is used on Mac. Primal Rage will come out as a result. And the Valkyrie too, so Marcus does use the Pulse Bomb. Muller comes out with the Pulse Bomb onto the mech, and already up to a 20% value from that. So Chinchilla gets an exit kill, but it's not going to be enough to win this fight, perhaps. And he picks up another one, does die to Mac, and Boken using that Primal Rage, but he's the only one of his team left alive, and so they are going to be forced to reset against their will at this point.
Yeah, and I think Bokan there too maybe just had to use the Primal just to stay alive, which is unfortunate because now the entire team has the reset. They do have the self-destruct on the other side is the only thing up. So it's very expensive for both sides, but for the defense, that's actually better for them because you don't have as much work that you have to do. They have to come to you. Chinchilla has to try and find an angle to even get shots on where Arl can just be set up. So very good positioning at least here for the defensive side going into this next fight, and Muller T getting PG1 makes it a good start.
That was a bit of a trade, a bit of an intense fight in the Tracer duel. It seemed almost like the two teams were just waiting for the Tracer to see which Tracer came out on top to retake a real fight, and unfortunately they tied, so a bit of a non sequitur almost in how they were going about that. A very interesting scenario. Self-destruct over the top, it's not going to find any value whatsoever. Actually, it does destroy the bubble that Boken put down, but not much else as they take this wide right-hand side flank. PG1 moving the cart up into a position where they're able to do so. Valkyrie now out for the offense as Mac comes in. Doesn't have that Primal Rage, so he does get deleted, and that's going to mean that they do have a tank advantage coming in. PG1 kiting away. Diva wasn't able to come back in time. Boken over the top, finds a Zen. And he's going to be by himself, however, as he also doesn't have Primal Rage, does force Transcendence, and gets out with his life, so a great trade there for the attackers. They are down to the last 15 seconds, however, as PG1 going down to a clean headshot from Arlia.
Still have the Transcendence here as well as the one thing. Well, they just used it. I take that back. So they had the Transcendence, had to use it here. Do they have the chance to take the cart back here? Self-destruct thrown right onto the cart here as Marcus tries to get back to it. But Armor, that's fine for them because they're able to just take everybody out as they come back to the cart. Overtime meter almost was out. It's now just a matter of taking out the last few targets, and they should stop this push here. If the self-destruct gets everybody that it needs off the cart, PG1, the only one here stalling along with Bokan, but it's all but academic.
Indeed, all but academic as PG1 trying for an A+, but will have to settle for a reset, as that's going to be round one complete. So HumbleBrag, some very impressive play as a team, but just unable to really turn it around at the end. And so it will be going to Armor.gg to prove if they have the chops on this fight, or on this attack round for themselves. And I think one thing to note is that PG1 has not gotten the advantage of Muller T very often in the Tracer v Tracer duel. And so that is a scenario where free damage is being taken away from the attack, or from HumbleBrag in this regard, as Muller T just essentially zones out PG1 on that Tracer. He did get value a couple of times, but not nearly enough to really swing a fight in their favor very often.
Yeah, and that's such a big thing, right? Because the Tracer is sort of, the longer, if you ask some of the best Tracers in the world, what's the one thing you want to do? Stay alive, but you also want to be able to stay alive and make yourself a threat. If you're not making yourself a threat, it doesn't really matter if you're alive. So PG1 losing out on those battles is a lot of damage that's lost out, but not only that, it's a lot of focus from the other team that isn't on other targets than what they could be. They can focus fire a little bit better.
And as somewhat ridiculous as it might seem to say, being alive just isn't enough when you're
Right.
in a scenario like that. I mean,
Exactly.
saying it out loud, it sounds silly, of course, but it makes sense, right? If you're not there, if you're not providing pressure, then it doesn't matter how alive you are. You may as well be in the
Right.
spawn room if they can't see you, right? So, yes, it's good to stay alive, but you also need to provide. I think they just need to be a little bit more cognizant of the fact that Muller T is taking the advantage of PG1 in these 1v1s, and maybe perhaps restructure how they sort of come into these fights.
Yeah, give it a little bit, just a little bit more support. I mean, PG1 isn't doing terrible in these fights, is one thing to point out as well. It's fairly close, but definitely the edge goes to Muller T in them. So even though he's at least making it interesting, he's not doing enough where he can stay as something relevant into the fight, as they will be on the high ground here to start off this fight. Steg's trying to push them off, at least get some damage in, but both the tanks able to stay up with the Ana from Excited, keeping them alive. Bubble, though, will cut them off now, as now they will have to try and refocus and figure things out. Bokin, though, with that early pick on a Mac, is going to make things very difficult.
Very aggressive early hold. Bokin being supported by the Ana does get the Bionade out, so what was a disaster initially turns out in their favor, actually. Swimmer being supported by Mac Q, and that means that PG1 just not going to be able to burst through that healing from the Mercy, and so they do take the PG1 out. So they, again, the spawns for the attackers are so close. And PG1 has a long walk to go, even though he does have those blinks from the Tracer. Bokin on Arl earlier, making his life difficult, but you get that really aggressive dive in. Mac Q in, though, to support, and that means the tanks are caught out of position. Marcus demeg, and Bokin pays the hard way with his life. So the tanks are out of commission, as Mac finds the further 3 of the team that he is going against to be a rather juicy target. There is a bit of a reset here as Chinchilla just dies on cart. They're trying to stagger out as much time as possible. The supports do get back in play, however, for HumbleBrag as they get out safely, as there's no way for Muller T to really come in on them quite yet. And the reset, but they do burn off about a minute or so from the clock. So a good early 2 fights. Oh, the pulse bomb whiffs from Muller T, and so Zen, they are able to contest back here. Bokin jumping in on the cart sound there. Sorry, tactical visor out. He is covered by the bubble in his face. Self-destruct at the top, but Stags does go down before he can remech and see the value of that self-destruct. Marcus with the self-destruct on the cart, just fall out, picks up 2, both tanks down for Armor.gg. Good lord. And that's going to be a reset here, only 0.46 meters from checkpoint A.
They couldn't get away from Marcus's self-destruct. That was really sort of the linchpin there to make sure that they sealed the fight, but sort of the go button being pressed was Muller T missing that Tracer bomb. That's sort of when he saw the engage really happen for HumbleBrag. We're like, okay, we don't have to worry about that. Let's take this fight.
Muller T looking to take that fight versus PG1 and doesn't quite get the value in terms of the kill, but does force PG1 all the way back to his team and actually sections off Bokin from whatever he needs to be with. And they're going to go for a very aggressive dive, does pull the Primal Rage out. They try to turn a bad fight into a good one. Pulse Bomb is used, and Marcus will be demeched as a result. No self-destruct to keep him in there. PG1 trying to find the kill on Mac, but Mac, a little bit of fancy footwork there, and does stay alive, not even need to use the Primal Rage. Marcus, of course, demeched. And so we'll find the business end of the micro missiles. This Primal Rage is out for Mac, zoning out the healers and the soldier, and that's going to mean the rest of the team is able to do as much damage as they'd like. And Bokin, the only one left alive, so that'll be a take here on this first point for Armor.gg. Only slightly faster, I think, than HumbleBrag did on the first run.
I'm not sure if Excited meant to use that nano boost onto the Tracer. I think he was trying to get it onto Bokan, but the Tracer just happened to blink it right in front, it looked like. So that was a little bit of an unfortunate use there, and then Excited getting taken out there by Arl is definitely a huge loss. But I mean, you generally don't see the nano boost target being the Tracer, so I have to feel that maybe that was a mistake.
Well, as the saying goes, Actually, I don't have a saying for this particular scenario, as one does not normally nano boost tracers. It is correct. However, they are looking to just sort of delay this first fight. They are down excited. Remember, he was taken out early, and so they can't really take an early fight. So Mac does go down. The pulse bomb, however, in return, that is in a rather safe space. So self-destruct will be taken out. Matthew goes down. That cart is moving very, very far forward, however. That yellow box of victory not much further ahead, and a lot of cart space was given up as a result of Excited going down that early. However, HumbleBrag does manage to pull it back, and they will hold, at least temporarily.
They're about back to another nano boost, so they have a lot of ultimates they're going to have to work with here in this next fight. 5 on one side, and you only have 2 left, and most of the other ultimates are not very close here for Armor Esports, so just have to be very conservative, not overly conservative, but make sure you use your ultimates correctly if you're on the side of HumbleBrag. You have such an advantage. Don't blow them all at once because you still have another fight that you've got to try and win after this one. They're going to start off with Transcendence here. Mac gets the kill onto Excited, though, before it, so that's a little bit of a tough loss. It's going to have to force out the Visor here as well, but things going in favor of Armor GG. Chinchilla does manage to get Mac, but it's not going to be enough. The rest of the team was taken out in the meantime. Marcus is stalling as much as he can, but it looks like that's going to be it. This should be the golden box here. Only one close is Excited, but not going to be able to get there, and it's a win there for Armor GG.
Armor GG, just, there is something that you never want to see when you're playing in a comp like that. And those are dying or losing a map when you have Transcendence and Primal Rage. And unfortunately for HumbleBrag, they were forced to use Transcendence in an inopportune position, and they died with Primal Rage. So that's a situation you really don't want to be in. But kudos to Armor.gg. They really forced a fight in a way, and taking the map in big fashion. Again, they really took that second point without any sort of contest from Armor.gg. Armor.gg HumbleBrag rather, only got one real fight on second point across what could be considered 3 fights or 3.5 fights, right? So Armor.gg just really taking it to them.
Yeah, I think it was good too that you pointed out that well, one, there were so few fights, but you pointed out when it was happening that they were moving the cart so much, taking advantage of space that was given to them by Armor GG, just because Excited. The 2 fights they lost at the end, right? What was the sort of the correlation between the two? Excited went down very early in those fights, so you lose not only a lot of healing, but you lose a lot of utility as well with the Bionate and everything else. So Excited going down as quick in both those fights really was sort of the thing that started everything for Armor GG as they were winning those 2 in streets.
I think another thing to note is, even though Excited went down early, that's not the entire reason why they necessarily lost all those fights. Another thing to note is Armor.gg, keep in mind, Excited was playing an Ana. Ana, one thing that she really excels at is sheer healing throughput, right? She has just huge burst healing capabilities. However, she requires direct line of sight to heal her teammates, because she is, of course, either a projectile or hit scan healer with her gun. Armor.gg force fights under the bridge, where Excited really could either had 2 choices, and 2 bad choices at that. Either not heal the team, which is not really a choice, or put himself in an awkward, dangerous position to get those heals off. And on top of that, when you're healing through the Winston barrier, through the defensive matrix, through the hassle and harass that, Armor.gg was kind of running, and of course, Arlia in that map was playing the Widowmaker. So, a sniper is something that you have to be really careful of in how you position yourself. And so, not only was Excited running an Ana, who just sort of suffers as a result of the comp that Ana was playing against, you're putting yourself in a position where you can't make good decisions to heal your team. And Armor.gg exploited that, I think, not only in just killing Excited, right off the top, but by pulling HumbleBrag into a place where Excited just couldn't heal via that Ana.
And I think a good thing to point out with what you're saying about that too, Lafon, is Mac's bubbles were usually in very good positions to deny a lot of that healing that Excited could even try and put out anyways. So you have to fight the bubble, you have to fight where they're positioned, and not only that, you're getting focused a little bit there by the Widow. It's not usually a fight that you're going to win Ana v Widow. So I think it was a great team effort on the side of Armor GG. So it makes me curious about this next map we're going to, because we go to Hanamura now, which is a map where we do get to see usually quite a bit of dive at times, but you can also see the Orisa come out there as well. What do we expect here as we go to this next map?
Hanamura is interesting. This goes for all assault maps, of course. But
Yes.
I think historically, you could say this about Hanamura more than anything else, in that you have two very different strategies for point A and point B in your DPS lineup, right?
100%.
You usually on point A run a Genji, right? Because just the mobility, the ability to just go in and out really quickly. And then for point B, because of all that high ground, you tend to run a soldier, right? So there's just a different strategy between point A and point B. Of course, that's not common across all teams. Most teams choose to pick one strategy and stick to it. But I'm curious to see if these teams are going to do that. Pull out a particular attack on point A and then maybe change it up on point B and sort of see how they go for it. Because we've seen Genji from both these teams already. Think back to Oasis and Gardens in the second run we saw it. So I'm kind of curious to see if that's going to happen. If they're going to run sort of that hit scan pressure on point B, or if they're just going to stick to whatever their opening salvo is going to be on point A.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things. I feel like maybe Hanamura and Volskaya are maybe the two maps that are the most interesting as far as 2CP goes. I feel like I'm not a big fan of Horizon Lunar Colony myself as far as the 2CP goes, and Temple of Anubis is just one of those maps that's such a grind. I think at least as far as making things interesting more than those other two, I feel like Hanamura is one of those maps where things are maybe a little bit more exciting than you would see on maybe some of those others.
And so I'm curious to say another thing to note, actually, and we saw this from Excited on Dorado, actually, yes, just last map, is that they play an Ana, and defensively, Ana is actually surprisingly good on Hanamura, just because of how the map is situated and how defensively you can posture up as the Ana to make yourself really difficult to dive upon, sort of in this dive meta, right? So I'm curious to see if the defense on either side is going to run that Ana. And again, Ana was highlighted as a hero that a lot of these support players like to play. So will they go back to those picks, or will they, stay to the tried and true in that Mercy or the Zen? And at least initially, we're seeing something a little bit odd in that we're seeing a Mercy and an Ana, at least here on the defense, at least early on.
Right. We could always see that switch end up coming in, and you would expect them to maybe play back sort of where that diva just was putting the her sprays at. That's generally the area you maybe would see the supports play, and it looks like that might be the case. They're going to position, though, their 2 DPS, at least the soldier. He's going to be up on the high ground with the Mercy. So it looks like they are going to stay with the Mercy and have it damage boosting the soldier up on top. But this is sort of an area, too, where they're kind of giving up that early choke here, which isn't something that's too surprising to see.
I think one of the other things is you're trying to bait out the dive, right? And then you just counter dive them. So this is what this positioning speaks to me. They are running a boosted soldier on the high ground, so that is what the Mercy is for. Electing to go for the single target damage boost as opposed to team-wide in this corridor. But positioning comes in here from the attackers. They're looking, just trying to see if there's anything available for them to get in on. And they find themselves zoned into that left room, or they elect to go there themselves. They are very weak, however, and Muller T is going to take full advantage of that. Pick up Excited, as Boken, very, very weak himself. And just the healing of the Lucio there to keep them alive.
It's really
PG1,
unfortunate.
or Chinchilla, I should say. So it is going to be the Tracer Genji here on first point, something that is somewhat common, as Mac will find the kill. And so they're continuing to go in on a dive here as they find Arlia out of position, but it's not going to be very advantageous. Again, they don't have their support, they don't have their DPS in PG1, or Chinchilla for that matter, and so a lost fight, lost very heavily from HumbleBrag there. I think to note is they gave it so much ultimate to the defensive side.
I'm surprised that they waited as long as they did to maybe try and reset. When you lose Excited as quickly and then he gets staggered out again afterwards, you're kind of in a very tough position as far as your dive comp is going to go if you can't get that Zen around that corner. That's really sort of just what happened. So good job by Armor GG to see that they could take that and take Excited out early on. Next fight, though, here, the quick dash in. PG1 takes out Molar T. So now advantage to the attacking side. Diving in now towards Mac and where the Ana is. They do get Marcus, though, out of Mac here. Visor coming in from behind from Arl. And Steeg's able to do some damage as well as they combine to take out the rest of this team. So it's going to be another failed dive here.
That was a case of Armor.gg just kiting for days after losing, you know, Muller T on that Tracer. There was a dive, but it was not clean, it was not coordinated, and it got no kill. So, Nano Boost was used, Tactical Visor and Pulse Bomb were used from the defense, but they get full value out of it. And Armor.gg now in a good position. There's really no ultimates here from the offensive side. They have the Transcendence, and they have the Dragon Blade and Pulse Bomb, but not much else coming through, at least initially in this fight. And so, a bit of a strange thing is that Winston is caught in position, Primal Rage is used, so he's going to be trying to get back to his team. Does get that healing. Transcendence is forced out as I believe the Pulse Bomb was used on him. And so now again, PG1 picks up 1 kill, but nothing else as his team falls around him. So this is a very disorganized and disoriented attack side from HumbleBrag.
And it's not going in their favor here. They're quickly getting cleared off here. Just a primal ranging Winston. I think he's just going to send himself off the side to go and regroup in Bocan. So like you were saying, it kind of disjointed again for their dive. I mean, what is the key, though, here for them? Is it just lack of coordination? Because it seems like there's maybe some opportunities for the dive to work.
I mean, first of all, you just can't do that. That's a play you cannot make, as Excited just did there. You cannot walk in as a Zen before the rest of your team, and unfortunately, that's a microcosm of what's happening to HumbleBrag entirely. They're walking in one by one, they're not picking a target, and so they're not getting any kills. And even when they do get kills, it's not nearly in a position that they can take advantage of. So HumbleBrag needs to just basically become the team we saw in Oasis and not the team we've been seeing the rest of the time. Soundbarrier is in here. They're going to go for the attack. Boken up with Marcus on the Winston. Sorry, on the Soldier and Mercy. Tactical Visor on the Transcendent, on the Nano Boost. And again, that's going to mean that they get kills with it. Boken does go down. Marcus, Self-Destruct is used, but not able to get back in Mac as the pilot is taken away, and Excited finds the business end of the bullets of 2 heroes. And again, with 7 seconds and counting, they're just going to lose this point.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe trying to get back here is going to be Boken, but I don't think he's going to have enough time as this does go. And I think the thing to point out here, too, Lafon, is you're talking about how Excited going in the way he has sort of was kind of derailing everything at the start because, you know, you're going in one at a time, players get taken out. But generally, one thing that sort of can keep a dive together when the coordination isn't there is, you know, if you have a Discord orb on a target, that's sort of who you can focus, but you couldn't even have that because Excited was the first one taken out pretty much every time.
I think in a nutshell, that point can be described as put it in, just, you know, strike it from the books and move on.
Yeah.
Something my old coach once used to say. There are some times where you play a practice round or a game or really, you know, just it's so bad that you just pretend it never happened and move on, right? Burn the game tape, and that's all there is to it. So I think that just actually might be one of those for HumbleBrag in this regard, just due to how disorganized that dive was. It was so awkward in how they went and engaged on these teams, and perhaps it's the map. There are teams that just struggle on certain maps, and perhaps this is it for HumbleBrag, but that was an odd showing, to be sure.
Uncharacteristic from what we've seen from them, too.
Yes.
The thing is, though, is they now get a chance on defense. They can still turn this around. I mean, if they full hold here to force the draw, I mean, that is entirely possible, especially when you think about the comp that they saw and that they might run themselves, which is looking like basically almost the same thing that we saw, except they're going to have the Zenyatta. PG1 still hasn't picked a hero, though.
A bit of an odd, they're going to run that dive composition, so with the Soldier on the high ground and Excited on the Ana. So they're running the Ana Zen, choosing to have a defensive ultimate in their pocket as something that they could possibly be running. So no Zen on the offense, however. And so we are going to be seeing a bit of a last-minute change from the offensive side, as there is going to be a regular dive, except for the Zen not being present. Other than that, it's about equal. as the team comes in. And that's what I mean about an aggressive coordinated dive. They just go directly to point, and they zone out about half the team. Chinchilla unable to really get back with who he's playing with, and that means he's going to go down early. Jack as well. Marcus is demeched, and this is all but disastrous as Mac is the only one who's going to go down from the attacking side. And unfortunately, with only one tick to take, the last-minute contest is there, but it's not nearly enough. And Armor GG on their first push just takes Hanamura and takes the lead in the series.
Play of the game.
The one thing for HumbleBrag is their least favorite map type, of course, is 2CP, and well, I mean, we saw it there. I think that's the one thing you can input. I think, like you said, LaFon, this is sort of one of those maps that you kind of, if you're a team, you throw the tape out, you forget about it, because we know this is not what we can see from HumbleBrag. And for Armor GG, obviously, this is one of those maps that you use as tape when things aren't going well for you. Say, this is how we can play, where we can be this dominant. So it's always funny to see the kind of contrasts and things like that. But for the both of these teams, I mean, Armor GG now having a 2-1 map lead. Obviously, this is Scrim Night, so it's not the biggest of deals, but I think that they have to be happy with how they've continued to play here for them moving on into whatever our next map is going to be.
I think as someone in this space once mentioned is scrim bugs should be implemented, and when you win a map you get given a small amount. So absolutely, scrim results don't actually mean anything, but they're fun to talk about. And so Hanamura, yeah, I mean, on an analysis level there isn't really much to speak about because one team executed and the other didn't. So was it a clean map from HumbleBrag? No. Should they put it out of their mind in this next map and just go for it? Go for trying to just go back to what we can see from them throughout this play? I absolutely think they can and should. So again, maybe it's just their Achilles heel, if you will. Assault maps just not being their style, and perhaps Armor.gg, that is their style. Where they play sort of that slow, somewhat kiting defense. And then on the offense, just go very, very aggressively, coming in for a map victory on the first attack. So it looks like we are going to sort of a hybrid that hybrid map for this next showing, and so we will see what it will be.
Regardless, though, when you look at the hybrid, I think they jokingly are saying going to Blizzard World, but I don't think we're actually going to go there. Kings Row is what we have up on there. Regardless of where we go, or maybe we are going to Blizzard World. So if we do see Blizzard World here, LaFon, I mean, it's a map where the meta is the newest because it's the newest map. What is it that Blizzard World has to offer for us? Because I feel like it's a map that is still being figured out a little bit.
I think one thing to note is that strategy is going to be changed massively on this map specifically, and there is a very, very good reason why. Historically, and by historically I mean since the map's release on both the PTR and live, the second point of that map, of Blizzard World, was inarguably really bad. The spawn distance for the defenders was abysmally close. And so it was almost Assault map-like in how quickly defenders got to the second point defense. However, on the last patch, the patch that was released yesterday, there was a change in how the map was. So the second point spawn was moved back, or the second point checkpoint was moved back 10 meters. So I'm thinking that now, instead of that sort of stagger that we would sometimes see on second point from defenses, they just continue to brawl out, and with the advantageous distance, win fights. I think we're finally going to see more second point captures than we did in the past. Add to that it seems like these teams that this map here, you can play sort of that slow style, that anti-dive style. I think we may legitimately see that come out from Armor.gg here on this point A.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if that isn't what we see, and of course Armor.gg still in blue and HumbleBrag still in red, being the attacking team. So nothing's changing as far as colors here for you watching at home, but they're showing us here a Torbjorn, but I think they're just playing with our hearts.
Seeing as it's Swimmer who's playing Torb, if they do end up going with this composition, you would be running Torbjorn as a second support, so they may actually do so. Running the solo quote support Mercy, as they run sort of a extremely anti-dive in this scenario. I hope they do it. It's something that has been experimented with in the past. I don't think they will, but if they do, it will be interesting. Swimmer is walking all the way to the point. Again, they do have 40 seconds if they decide not to play it. But if they do, it is something that is another map. Actually, this is run on, especially on first point, is Numbani, where you run a Torbjorn in place of your second support, at least for first point, just due to how, shall we say, not support friendly that first point of Numbani is, and to a certain extent, the same can be said here for first point Blizzard.
And I think he is going to play it. He already built the turret, and there's only 8 seconds left. He didn't go towards the water. He went the opposite way. That was my key to know. We do get to see it, and it looks like Marcus is going to get onto the D.Va here, and we are going to see, like you said, full dive with the Widow here. A lot of sight lines here for Widow here.
So, Blizzard World, I wish we had a chance to show, and perhaps I'll talk about it a little bit later when we get to the attacking side for our team in blue, Armor GG. But they are going to take the high ground, our HumbleBrag, through that section where the rides are, the flight to Duskwood. It's, again, a Blizzard World. It's a themed map, one that says Blizzard does actually exist in Overwatch lore. Overwatch, of course, does not exist in Overwatch, if I may say it that way. A large wrap around here, and they're going to go find just the target. They're going to blow it up quickly. Following to the point, Arlia picks up a kill on PG1 with a damage-boosted grenade, I believe. As Excited does get the Resurrect off, however, so they are in no larger amount of disarray than a lost Resurrect. And so Boken finds the back line and finds the business end of the scrap gun from Torbjorn. Does a lot of damage up close, it turns out. Marcus is hit in a trap, and so this is going to be all in favor of the defense rather. Chinchilla does get one, but is resurrected right away. And so this is going to be forced off the high ground now as Segs finds the kill. Jack goes down yet again, and that's going to have to be a reset here from the attackers. PG1 is caught in... does manage to perhaps get out? No, the Torb is chunking down his health, and so from afar, Mac was able to clean up with those bullets from a reset.
That's just a really tough first attack that you have as well, because not only do they not get anything out of it pretty much other than they have Valkyrie up, is they took off a lot of time just to go all the way around to engage the way they did. So now they're already on a time constraint as they come in for their next attack here. They do have their Widow set up, at least in the spot, to try and deal damage out. I don't even think they realize the Widow is there. So just looking and waiting for the rest of the team is Chinchilla, and then we'll probably more than likely look to try to take out one of those targets. Molten Core, though, popped here preemptively at the start of this fight. Chinchilla hasn't been able to find anybody just yet. PG1, though, getting the turret out of the fight can at least help things out. But here comes the Riptire here that can quickly throw things back in favor of the defense. Are able to get the mech and the Mercy, so a good start here for the defense again.
They get the pulse bomb off. The Resurrect does come out, but they do get the Resurrect off. So the Supercharger from Marisa is pulled out as they do get the cleanup, and unfortunately for HumbleBrag, they were just playing into a large deficit in terms of ult economy. And so ult rotation was all that really the defense needed there to really win that fight. They used, Molten Core early. They chunked down the tanks to a very, very low degree, and Chinchilla picks up one. Very unfortunate scenario. So not even going to die, actually, as Chinchilla is in the way back, just spawn camping, Mac Q at this point as he's playing on the second point. Swimmer is being pulled away as well. That's 2 players down for the price of 1, and it's long-range damage. This is the opportunity that perhaps the attackers are looking for. They zone out. Chinchilla picks up another kill. That's really extremely unfortunate here. That's self-destruct, finding no value whatsoever, and that's going to be an extremely great play. PG1 over the top on the Junkrat now, picks up that many health back, finds Arlia, and the mine coming up, the concussive blast, takes away his counterpart in Junkrat. And so off of some solo heroics from Chinchilla, point A with 30 seconds left goes to HumbleBrag.
Just able to do a lot of work in that back line. They just weren't able to take him out. They sent the Torbjorn. There was just nobody really to come out and have utility help to take out Chinchilla. I mean, you can't expect a Mercy to win a 1v1 for a Widow unless you're able to get right in the Widow's face, and even then, you probably don't. But Arl able to get the quick pick here to start off, so the defense still in a pretty good position though. They still have taken a lot of time off, and they get a very early jump onto the cart, where the damage being dealt on by Mac with the Tesla cannon. The cart starting to move through that choke point here, but still advantageous as far as the defense is concerned. Looking for some more picks as Arl hasn't been able to find another head just yet. Now finds a Winston coming forward, at least dealing the damage out and keeping him behind that pillar as the cart still continues to move.
Mac engaging very aggressively, picks up a kill for himself, and won't even be chunked down at all. It's actually going to be his counterpart that goes really, really low. Boken finding no value whatsoever there. Excited does go down, and Chinchilla still providing those headshot heroics. Picks up another kill, and so puts himself in a decent position coming into this retake. Again, that second point, or so that first point is now the spawn room for the attackers. And so Swimmer does assassinate the PG-1 in close. Boken looking for that high ground, just trying to scout out where the Widowmaker is. Nothing really in their sights yet, however. Oh, a great kill though. Swimmer does go down the Resurrect. Is it there? They're going to try and really aggressively come in on this Mercy. The Mercy gets the Resurrect off. Pulse Bomb out on the Widow. There goes Mercy, however. And so Mark is going to be demech before he gets that self-destruct. He won't be able to remech in time. And again, defense just coming out on top in terms of mechanical frags. Self-destruct is there. Stegs really aggressively posturing on the high ground, basically telling Chinchilla, come to me, and Chinchilla can't quite take that invitation. 60 seconds remaining as Athena so kindly reminds us.
Taking out those technical kills, like you said, just winning the 1v1s, but also just a good pulse bomb. Throw it onto the very stationary target in the Widow on Chinchilla, who's been dealing a lot of damage. That's so much space that can be created after you take a Widow out, because we know Widowmaker does create so much space. Dive onto the Widowmaker here. Chinchilla does get Arl, but quickly res back up, though, by Matt Q. So still a chance here with Transcendence popped to keep the tanks up and the Widowmaker alive, as they still are looking for that next important engagement and takeout of one of these players. Jumping away is the Winston, and Bokan gets healed back up. So still even on either side here, but this is definitely going to be the last fight.
Valkyrie now used for the attackers. PG-1 comes in on Mac. Jack's so weak. Does get out just in the nick of time in terms of the healing he receives. Both Widows using their Chinchilla using the infraset as Arlia goes down. And Pulse Bomb is out and picks up Jack. But Chinchilla, not content with letting his team lose, picks up another kill. Overtime isn't effective. It's all red in the kill feed, as Mac the only one left alive, and not for very long. As with those words, Jack picks up the kill. Second points gets captured. And that's going to be an aggressive play. Only a minute 24, though, for this third point for our attackers.
It's such a big difference having that second tick bead where it is now. You know, that 10-minute eaters may not seem like it's a lot, but it really is. And you saw there, I mean, the respawns weren't going to be there anyways, but still, it does make such a big difference. So definitely a good adjustment on Blizzard's part to move where you have that second take point at. But now on to this final point here. So you do have further to go here. 60 seconds left. Self-destruct gets 3! Gets Mac and the Mercy and the Junkrat here. So a very good start for the offense. They're going to be able to push this card very far before the regroup comes in.
I want to highlight something that PG-1 did there. Put a Pulse Bomb out, forced Mac to put the bubble down early, and then the self-destruct in over the top. Just absolutely disastrous for the defense there, with a huge triple kill and basically a reset entirely. Arlia now on the Junkrat into this last fight. They're going to go for a very aggressive dive. Transcendence is out, not in time to save Boken, however, and that's going to be extremely unfortunate there. They're not getting the kills in that they need. Resurrect is there through the Transcendence, but Swimmer picks up one, and that's going to mean that without that sheer support in the backline, Jack goes down, and that's going to be a hold here. Primal Rage is out, but they are in the last 10 seconds of the fight. Remember, the map nearly out. Marcus, Pulse Bomb is used a slight bit too early, which means that the Pilot Diva not going to be killed immediately, but rather in a staggered, delayed fashion. Boken does manage to stagger up the timer, pulls Excited in with him. The Riptire is there, the Transcendence is as well, and that will be it for this attack round, as there's no way for Jack to get even close to the point. Round 1 is complete, but they do manage to get nearly there at about 90%, 98% if you will, of the map completed.
A very good job from the side of HumbleBrag, especially with how hard it was for them not only to end up taking that first point, but they really pushed through that streets phase fairly quickly. It's still a very long map here for sure, and As far as from what you've seen here early on, the fact that that point is moved back, what have you thought about that, and also obviously how that went there for HumbleBrag?
I mean, you can clearly see how the map changes allowed them to capture second point. Without those map changes, I guarantee there is absolutely no way they would have taken it. The spawns are just way too close, and you actually need to. It's honestly like an assault second point. Or previous to the patch, that is. You need a team wipe to cap, and not only do you need a team wipe, you need a team wipe at the right time to get that second point on the previous look. So the fact that the map was changed allowed them to capture second point and move towards third. No doubt in my mind.
And it changes the way third point is now too, because you do have a little bit of a third point, but the length at the beginning there, I don't know if it makes that much of a difference, because you're still probably going to push that pretty quick, because after you get that wipe, it's a very long way from that third spawn to try and get an early defense there. And looks like we need a pause here as well. It was asked for.
Incoming in 30 seconds.
But that just gives us a little bit more time to talk here about Blizzard World. This is a map that when it came out, people, obviously it's a cool map, Lafon, but it's something that they've really have been, and it looks like we're actually getting some switches here as well. So I'm not sure if that was, if we had a DC or what ended up happening.
It looks like it's going to be a substitute in, as Zero is showing up for our scrim block here. So our ringer drops out. And so we will see the main tank role, I think, for HumbleBrag get switched around here.
Okay, so a little bit of a switch here for the side of HumbleBrag. I wonder why it was so long for Zero to get back here, but it doesn't matter. I mean, now you have the two tanks that it seems like they really wanted to have playing anyways. So how does this make a difference as far as now having Zero here?
I mean, you get the familiarity. I would assume that playing, sort of a very impactful role in that main tank, someone who it's now become so. A quick note on how Overwatch has worked to this point is we've gone through different stages to who your shot caller is. It started off in the beginning of Overwatch as your DPS, and then it quickly shifted to the supports, and now in this dive meta we see our tanks actually be the shot caller. So there may be an element of that in how HumbleBrag is playing, but we praised HumbleBrag earlier for how they communicate, especially on Oasis on that retake. Will that be even better here? Well, we'll have to find out. It is going to be a dive defense and a very passive setup here from the defensive side. They are running a Sombra instead of that secondary DPS. Miller T falling on one clip on Chinchilla off the backline. That is not a good start, and it's going to be the defense now and struggling for their lives as they try and find just some scenario. They do already get up a third on the point and climbing. As finally another kill comes in, Arlia on the top on that Genji, just zoning out Marcus, trying to get him out of mech. So weak, there's no healing left. Excited, now going to be taken away, and that means a first point on a first fight. As it looks like a quick DC here from PG1, unfortunately.
Escort the payload.
But it's going to be a lost early fight.
That's going to be really hard to come back from. I mean, we talked about how the street's face has changed quite a bit now from Blizzard World due to the fact that you now have that second tick now coming in 10 meters closer. Generally, it's that beginning part now where you can maybe try and have a good hold, where if you can get a chance to hold at the choke, but PG1 is going to lose all alt charge and everything else and have to try and get back into this fight as quickly as possible. So that's one of those things where you're kind of, when a DC happens like that, you're kind of already in a bad spot, and then you're even worse when the DC happens.
But it looks like PG1 is back in the lobby, so a quick disconnect and a quick reconnect. They're asking to restart the map. So again, this is a scrim block. This would not be allowed in an actual competition, of course.
And I think that they're saying that PG1 was gone for that entire time. So I think that they're asking for a restart now, but I think they're just trying to figure it out if we're going to or not. But I think we're just going to continue to start from here.
Of course, they did lose point A, so asking for a restart would be
a little difficult.
A bit awkward, I think. One of the one of the few things you have to be responsible of as a team is making sure all your players are there and, asking for a pause in the correct time, not halfway through the map, unfortunately. That said, it's going to be a reset here now, as points B is the one that they're going to have to take control of here. Looking for the advantage. Muller T in the backline, forcing Zero disengage. Shifted that armor. He's a very squishy target. PG1 in the backline looking for something. Recall is out. Does get a little bit of ult charge back, so not nearly what he would have had. Chinchilla does get the hack off on Swimmer, so no heals available from that Lucio for 6 seconds. They're going to go after him very aggressively. There's that Dragon Blade from Arlia. Picks up 1 kill. Will he find more? Picks up 3? No, not quite. Gets a second, and right at the end of the Dragon Blade, with a great turn, picks up the last 2 kills for that first point, or that second point, rather. And Marcus just staggering out time on the clock, but not much more.
Going to be a very quick push for them to go through this one here, as they continue to push around towards this final point, or the second point here. So they're going to have a lot of time going into the third point. There's going to be maybe one more defense opportunity here for the side of HumbleBrag, but they have 4 minutes that they're going to have to try and stall here if they can. So now they engage back on. It's part of the team on the high ground here. Arl getting the first kill on the Jack. So the Lucio already out of the picture here. Primal Rage in response to try and just disrupt this, but the damage still coming out. Arl getting excited. PG1 though finding a good pulse bomb onto Arl, so the Genji out of the picture. Self-destruct, able to get Swimmer. And the defense maybe have a chance to stabilize here. A couple players left.
A bit of an awkward position, because this fight goes very much in Armored favor, and they're going to capture a second point with no issues whatsoever. Those ultimates were flashing the kill feed, I will say this, but there was a couple of ones that perhaps the team really shouldn't have been getting kills on. That self-destruct was poorly positioned, but Chinchilla went down to it, and Arlia dashed through a pulse bomb that was nowhere near him. So a bit of a misplay, I think, there from both teams on that last fight, as they pick up another kill here. And that yellow box of victory, only about, it's nearly the end there, but still, 4 minutes and 48 seconds from which to get there. So a lot of time left, and not a lot of space.
That's the thing, a big time bank here for this one of these final fights they're probably going to have. Unless they can stall this out, it's going to be really difficult for HumbleBrag to do this here. Having PG1 trying to come in from the back line as he starts to engage on with the rest of his team. Trying to focus down one target, but the Dragon Blade coming out here from Arl does manage to get Jack here early on, continuing to push forward as he gets Marcus out of mech, and then Matt quickly taking Marcus out, as the rest of the kills continue to come in here, and Armor GG so close to that golden box.
1 second on his jump pack cooldown as he gets into the drink, and the map hazard claims another. So they are going to be trying. Chinchilla switches over to the Genji, or it's always in the Genji. It's very close to the Dragon Blade, rather. Marcus DMAC yet again. The Excited not able to bring him alive with the Coalescences. Excited goes down as well. Primal Rage is out. Zero very, very close. The self-destruct over the top picks up Chinchilla, and they're not able to get back to points. Armor GG just ekes out a victory here, although they did have about 4 minutes left on the clock. A last-ditch effort, last-ditch fight, and a very, very awkward one.
They get a big win here, too. I mean, even if they have PG1 maybe from the beginning there, I mean, this was such a big snowball that it was going to be hard to come back from anyways for HumbleBrag. And their push was such a grind for them that it was hard. It was just they were sort of they were fighting an uphill battle from the beginning.
Definitely an awkward showing, I think, from HumbleBrag there. There was definitely some more. There was definitely some more showing from them there. Like they didn't nearly keel over on that map. So there's definitely some improvement from the last map, and they definitely seem to be moving forward. As we're going to just see what our next map is going to be. As there are some technical difficulties here on the board. A bit of a pun there, as it's keyboard issues that are going through.
Of course, keyboard issues are definitely not fun, especially if it stops you from being able to move. But I mean, for right now, I think if you're Armor Esports, you're happy with what you're seeing. There's some good coordination, and HumbleBrag, I think, I think we can agree that it's, they've just looked awkward at times, and it's not because there's lack of ability, it's just lack of the coordination that we've seen them have earlier on.
I think one thing to note, though, is that they haven't played with the same roster all night, and no matter
That's
how
tough.
good you are, changing players that often is going to be it just throws things in disarray, right? Players talk differently, players communicate differently, players, they go into fights in a certain way, they use their cooldowns in different ways, right? Like some players will go in with one cooldown first and the other one will go in with another, and so it just throws different wrenches in the plan, as you were or as you will. So even though both teams may say, oh, we're ready for anything, the truth is they're sometimes just different players change so much, and that might just be a thing here for HumbleBrag tonight.
And I think that's one thing to point out too, is that when you're playing with a lot of different players, is you get to see different looks and figure some things out. So at the very least, when you look at what HumbleBrag is doing, they're going to know what they're getting from certain players, and the only way to learn play styles of other players is to play with them, right? So that's the beauty of Scrim Nights, is that's what we get to have for both of these teams.
Yeah, and again, we made a small joke of it earlier, but scrims and Scrim Nights too, it's there for practice. Where they're there, it's there for the teams,
Right.
not just to practice with each other, right? It's to practice in these kind of like these low pressure scenarios where, yeah, okay, not only do you have to learn how to play with your teammates, but you have to learn to play without them too. To the level that if something happens in an actual tournament, you can deal with it on a moment-to-moment basis, as opposed to, sort of struggling to come up with what to do in the heat of the moment. So not only is it a place to practice mechanics, not only is it a place to practice strategy, it's there to also practice your mental approach to the game. And we're kind of seeing that in a small level here tonight. So it's really cool to see, I think, when you come at it from that point of view.
I agree 100%. And I think the cool thing too with what you're saying is that, when you do replace a player, for whatever reason it is, you can't expect somebody to come in and play exactly like that other player. That's just never going to happen. Their hero pools are going to be different. The way they play heroes is going to be slightly different. No two players play exactly alike.
But speaking of no two players playing alike, we go on to our next different map. So the maps are different, which is, I think, a good thing. Playing one map all the time would be excessively boring. But we get Ilios as our next showing. We will be doing that best of 5 scenario again, as we did do it on the first control map, so we will do it on the last control map, and we will be doing that best of 5 control point. Again, you want to see all stages when you're practicing, not just any random number of them.
That's a good thing
in a
about best of 5.
Yeah, in a best of 3, you can see just 2 of the 3. So in a best of 5, you will see all 3, and perhaps even all 3 multiple times in this regard. Again, Ilios is another map. We saw it on Oasis, where Pharah is just so good. Unlike, necessarily like Lijiang Tower, even Lijiang Tower, actually, I think it can be said that all all control maps have a specific stage where Pharah is not just good, but widely practiced. So.
Yeah, and this is one you can see. Lighthouse is definitely one where Pharah is viable. Would you say Well is more viable though for Pharah?
Well is usually the one where Pharah gets played the most, but she's definitely extremely viable here on Lighthouse too. Well, of course, has that map hazard just in the center of the map, and Pharah is so good with that concussive blast just knocking people off, so that's a place where she's also really good. But here, just the sheer openness of the map with the map hazards allows her to really put down a scary amount of, just pressure just by existing. And Arlia is going to exist as that Pharah. They're going to be running PG1 on a Reaper as they play close to point. So a very strange composition. They're going to be playing in close on point, and PG1 just saying, come to me. We're going to post up here. You have to come in on us. And so coming in, that Reaper excels in that close quarters combat as Muller T forced to recall early without really finding too much in terms of a kill. And they're building control percentage, but Swimmer goes down to Chinchilla. And so now, this is spelling extreme success as well for HumbleBrag to pick up another kill. PG1 in those close quarters. The Hellfire Shotgun is just able to do so much as he shreds through Stags. And then as a result, HumbleBrag shreds through Armor GG on this first point.
It's definitely a point bully comp that you're sort of seeing here with PG1 on that. You come into his range to try and take that point, you're going to get a ton of damage output onto you, not only from him, but you also have the Tesla cannon and a couple of other things as well with the Diva that can really deal the damage. And then you have Chinchilla, who's just going to be able to flank around and try and deal some damage as well. There, the pulse bomb put out by Muller Team does find a target, but doesn't end up doing enough damage to take him out, and they're able to heal him quickly with the Sound Barrier and the Coalescence to keep him up as they find another pick onto Mac from Marcus. Muller T, though, does find PG1, so a lot of damage gone here. Maybe the opportunity for Armor GG to now maybe swing this back with Marcus finding Mercy might keep this in favor, but a good barrage here just to take out Zero. Self-destruct won't get anybody. So it's kind of a back and forth here, but a chance here for Armor. If they can at least get this Diva out of Mac, they can maybe flip this point, but the respawn's coming back.
Unfortunately for them, they're going to stagger in over time. Mac gets hit by that pulse bomb, and PG1 going to clean up the rest. Wraith is out. They are going to force the self-destruct out of Stags. That is this is the disastrous scenario, is they're using ultimates in a fight that they should have won cleanly. And though they're getting the kills, the staggering in terms of control percentage is building. It's up to 72% and counted. PG1, the last one on the card, or the point I should say. And they finally finish up the cleanup as PG1 pulls out an extra 5% off his play alone. And they use a lot of ultimates to just bleed that point.
They did use a lot of ultimates, so you got about 2 on either side as Swimmer's Transcendence is about to come up. So 2 fairly defensive ultimates on the side of Armor GG to try and hold this point. They do have to worry, though, about this comp going right back on the point, but Arla getting PG1 early on could definitely help keep things in their favor. Rez comes out onto Mac to keep them up in front. And now it's pretty much just Jack and Marcus who's back, and Marcus quickly looked like he had a little bit of help getting pushed off, but I think that was his plan, seeing how quickly the rest of his team went.
I mean, that fight didn't help that PG1 was knocked off the map early, right? The concussive blast knocked PG1 away off the side of the map, and when you're down that much damage early on, and you don't find an entry frag of yourself, there really isn't a whole lot you can do, and that fight just went definitely in the favor of Armor GG there. There's a barrage over the top. It's gonna find 2. Not much more Premic is used. PG1 uses that Death Blossom, and Resurrect means that they're going to actually lose that fight. They're putting ultimates into a fight that they can't win here. Marcus resets, and that's sort of a sign of HumbleBrag to this point. Very aggressive, but sometimes that aggression just doesn't work. And again, you lose a fight, you lose a player early, and actually excited walking back to point. Chinchilla, Muller T thought about going after him. Does retreat at the last moment, but again, HumbleBrag putting bad ultimates or good ultimates after a bad fight. They're going to be forced to reset now. 83% and counting for Armor GG. Very close to that final fight win that they need to take point 1. As Arlie over the top looking for anything. Finds excited on that Zen. And that means that they're going to be down 1 yet again. Sound Barrier is, Transcendence is as well. In return, Zero very, very weak. Doesn't quite go down. Let's get the healing. Chinchilla picks up Swimmer in that backbone with that pulse bomb. Overtime is in effect. Picks up Chinchilla at the last moment. Self-destruct is used as Marcus tries to get D-Mac. Doesn't quite succeed. Zones him out of the point. Mac picks up his counterpart. As the self-destruct is now going to be used from Armor GG on point. His zone them out. Overtime is ticking away. Marcus D-Mac yet again. And unfortunately for them, this Dragon Blade is not going to find much value as it's getting chain healed away. And the attack on tanks. Dex does get the D-Mac, but he's going to pay for it with his life. And there's no way for anyone to get back a point in time as Chinchilla was forced to recall. And that will mean point 1 will go to Armor GG.
And when you look at that too there, Lafon, I mean, HumbleBrag, when they lost that point, that's sort of when they ended up losing this. Well, really, it's when the boop happened. That's when they really lost it, because PG1 had the Death Blossom ready for that second fight. He gets booped off. They lose all that damage. They don't have a chance to retake. And then when he does, he ends up having to switch over to Genji basically for the last fight. Well, that's too little too late. You're not going to be able to build the Dragon Blade up fast enough. So it's just a bit of unfortunate circumstances for them. If PG1 doesn't get booped off, this could be an entirely different point we're going into here right now. We could still be on that other map. But here for Ruins, you're going to see the Widows on either side. Not too surprising.
Ruins, one of the cleanest Widowmaker maps in the game, which is strange when you think about it. In the opening salvo is on red as Chinchilla picks up a high ground to low ground kill, I think. Perhaps one of the ability is using the grapple mine for that air shot. It is resurrected, however, so there is going to be that Widowmaker returning to the fight. As Chinchilla just looking for some value in that firing range. Not really finding a whole lot beyond tanks, as Muller T does dodge a couple of the shots. However, they are building point percentage. Muller T looking to find that Zen in the back line as he gets hit by the counter Widow and zoned out. And so a reversal maybe coming in here for the attackers, for Armor GG rather, in blue. As both, as one tank from each side is sort of out of the fight. And off the back of some great Widow play from Arlia, this might be the positioning that Armor GG needs.
It's looking like this is going to be their opportunity, but Chinchilla's still able to peel out some damage here, but it's not going to be enough. Didn't find enough heads fast enough to make a difference. This team still has enough players that maybe if they regroup, they can maybe have a chance to turn this fight around, but pushing the issue and forcing them back is the side of Armor GG. But PG1 getting Swimmer here early on could spell the difference, but are Arl just doing what's needed to keep this even?
I think a thing to note there is there was an opportunity there for HumbleBrag to come in and take the fight. As Chinchilla had got 3 kills on his own. They just had the presence of the tanks to really take advantage of it. But I think the argument there was, we have tanks coming back from spawn. Just take this fight now. Unfortunately, Excited goes down to Arlia coming back from spawn, and that means that they're going to lose that fight. Transcendence is out 0. Picks up inside that Transcendence. Chinchilla now caught out by Mac, and with both tanks collapsing on him, that's going to be the end of that fight. Primal Rage is used. Jack D-Max stags at the last. But they, while forcing out the Transcendence, they are slowly getting the kills. Not much else coming in. As Primal Rage is out, they do actually get another kill here. PG1 recalling in the nick of time off of, I think, what was essentially about 5 HP. And so they will retake this point here. A rather messy fight, realistically speaking. However, you know, what if it as long as it's messy but works, I think HumbleBrag will be happy with it.
And Arl is just not able to find any headshots, and when your Widow's not putting enough pressure, that's sort of when that fight can go awry, even if things are kind of even otherwise. So HumbleBrag just taking advantage of Arl missing some shots and staying out of the sightlines long enough to allow their team to win the rest of the fight. And Chinchilla is in a better high ground position to try and get more damage out, so that helps as well. This next fight here, though, Sound Barrier going to be used for HumbleBrag. Self-destruct having to be used on the point. Stakes manages to find Marcus, who also used the self-destruct, so it's going to be a win at least for the side of Armor GG as far as getting that D.Va out of the picture now, and now they can try and dive on some of those rest of those players, and Arl able to take out 2 there, and then Swimmer, the one going over to take out the Widowmaker and get this point flipped back over.
Unfortunately for HumbleBrag there, again, a fight lost in the initiation, and unfortunate timing for Marcus as the self-destruct, or the DMAC happened right as the self-destruct was ending, and so he died to the self-destruct as his was engaged. So awkward timing for sure, as Chinchilla is now going to, secede defeat or claim defeat in this fight, and going to switch over to Genji, though he did get a better advantage, I think, of the Widow v Widow duel. As the wall hacks does come out, that infra sight for Arlia here on Armor GG's side, and the attack comes in. Pulse Bomb in on Seg. D-Mech, no self-destruct to remech here. 0, very, very weak. Primal Rage in the nick of time to get back in. Overtime is in effect. They do need to stay on point. There's a couple of kills coming in now. 0 picks up 1 for himself. PG as well. PG 1 as well. And finally, they're going to get the cleanup crew that they need. Mac does use the Primal Rage, but it's a little too late, as his team was quite gone at that point.
Zero just... Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, Zero just getting the Widow out of the picture just makes the difference. Just forcing them off the high ground. That's why they win the fight.
Yeah. Although, at this point, HumbleBrag, Lobosco, is against... Their backs are against a very real wall here of 1%. It is a best of 5, so they don't lose the map on this kill, but on this, if they do end up losing this point. But Excited, having something to say for himself, takes away the Muller T on Tracer, or Muller T on the Tracer. I think to note, we did not highlight this earlier actually, but Zenyatta did get nerfed. His right-click speed, his charge-up speed, is 15% slower, and it definitely is noticeable when you're going in that 1v1 against, you know, the flankers. And speaking of flankers, Arlia will be switching off that Widow onto a Genji of his own. So Dragon Blade is out, Sound Barrier as well to keep him up. Chinchilla not finding anything, however. Transcendence is used too, so a lot of ultimates for not much value. Self-destruct over the top. Resurrect comes in. And another Pulse Bomb whiff. I think it actually was on Stegs' neck, so the cleanup came in from Marcus there. Big self-destruct from Marcus, picks up 2 more, excited down to 1 HP. Does survive, however, and picks up a kill on the pilot. Overtime in effect, and unfortunately for Armor GG, this is going to be it as Simmer goes down. Overtime ticks away, and that is actually it. 1-1, so a really clean end there. From HumbleBrag as they turn that fight around off of some actually really great play between Excited and Chinchilla.
It was a really interesting battle to watch. I think it was Arl who was on the Genji going against Excited. That 1v1 situation when you just sort of set it up too because the right click not as effective as it used to be, and Excited still able to manage to get the kill. It was the left click that he did it with, but still a big and important kill to get the Genji who was on him, and then he's able to rejoin the rest of the fight and then help them seal it off. So switches being made, but obviously maybe not overly damaging to certain heroes who have had these nerfs happen.
Arlia back on that Pharah, and they're gonna run against a Sombra. Something that is very viable now. She no longer farms those health back, so in the past she would have been played on that Ruins map, but now, without really that Sombra ability to charge her EMP from her health packs, and now charges from damage, teams have started to change how she's played on this map. That said, Mac taking up a very aggressive position, but PG1 gets the better this time of the Tracer duel. And so he's now able to roam the backline in complete control of himself. That's actually going to mean that Mac is in a world of hurt here as he's trying to get peeled away, and PG1, again, without any of that pressure, just comes in that backline. Muller T is back, but not going to be enough as they are going to just get kill after kill. There's that concussive blast from Arlia, the only kill that Armor GG got in that entire fight as they capture the point early on, though they do lose Chinchilla and Jack off some really aggressive play, down as they were 0.
Pharmacy combo still just able to put out the damage that's needed. Got the barrage, quickly takes out Zero, who is coming right back into the fight. So this is a chance for Armor GG to take this right back. The Pharah still having a great effect on this. Even though Arl didn't get those kills early on, eventually found them at the end, leads to this take.
That was a really bad read, I think, or I shouldn't say bad read, but that was an awkward read by Zero. I don't think he figured out just how much damage Arlia had done throughout that fight. Again, knocking off someone off the map gives you that alt charge that they have in HP, and Zero was nearly full HP, so you got about 500 HP worth of alt charge from that concussive blast, and so he built barrage really quickly, and so Zero was just in a really awkward position when he jumped in, and the bubble wasn't there in time to save him from the barrage. So the dive comes in now from Armor GG as the Coalescence is out. And Excited is going to be zoned away by a Primal Rage. Mac knocking him well back in the fight, so none of that healing there. As trades come in terms of kills, PG1 again with the kill on Tracer. Self-destruct in from Marcus, and he's going to pull Pilot Diva in with the Bunny Blaster, of all things. EMP over the top as Primal Rage is out as well. So Swimmer picks up a kill, not Chinchilla. Very awkward scenario there. So again, a long extended fight with a lot of ultimates being used and the deaths just aren't there. Armor GG coming in, staying alive. Arlia picks up another kill with that barrage. That's not something you see very often. Multi-kills with the rocket barrage. And so what was a very aggressive, early, clean-looking fight for HumbleBrag is actually going to spell disaster as they lose this point yet again.
The survivability of Arl on the Pharah is really the difference there. I mean, Arl continuing to be able to output the damage and just allow for the rest of the team to come back is what has been the difference, at least so far. They haven't been able to put enough pressure on the Pharah. They're trying to take out everybody other than the Pharah, but if you do that, you have to do it quickly, and they haven't been able to get those kills quick enough. Chinchilla, though, with a good hack here on the Mac, might be able to get him eliminated here early on. Good sound barrier, but he gets quickly pushed in. Just gets the hack back off in time, and now we'll pop the Primal Rage to stay on in this fight, trying to hit some people off. Gets the Moira and excited. So that's a good advantage here. Actually, it was the Lucio boop, but the Primal Raging Winston was there. So that Moira was going off no matter what. Overtime almost was out there, but able to get right back on his HumbleBrag. Self-destruct, though, and a position to force everybody at least away from it for the moment. Marcus loses the mech, couldn't get out of it in time. And now this should do it here, and Armor GG should get the 2-1 lead.
A really awkward fight there on that last fight. It's just their true last fight was in the fight where the EMP was used, and the end of that fight was just sort of staggered out, I think, towards the end there, as Armor GG comes in with the point victory as we head back to Lighthouse, and now with Armor GG at match point.
Do you see, we see Chinchilla staying here on the Sombra as well. We know that this is definitely going to be somewhere where Arl is going to use the Fair again. We saw how effective it was last time.
I think one of the things is we are seeing our last minute switch, of course. Perhaps the Sombra was a relic of the last round. But Chinchilla will be switching over to a fire. No Mercy. There it is. Mercy is picked up the last moment. So excited. We'll be playing that Fire Mercy. We do see the mirror Fire Mercy. So this is our mirror compositions, of course. No more of that close range composition that HumbleBrag was playing earlier with the Reaper. As PG1 will go down early on. So actually, I say mirror composition. It's actually double projectile from HumbleBrag is PG1 on the Genji. And Excited goes down to a D.Va, and that means that this fight is over, as Arl can actually posture up now and just take the spam away, as they're looking for a quick pause here. It seems there's something going on, as, you know, quick pause looking for it. Yeah, and then we finally do get it, of course, in. So it seems that there is some technical difficulties from these two teams, or from a player on one of the teams, so we're looking for a quick resolution, but we'll be back in as quickly as possible.
So looking at how things are going right now, the Chinchilla on the Fair couldn't really get a whole lot of damage out there, but he does at least have a slight ult advantage. Not that it makes a big difference. It looks like we are actually losing one of the players on the side of HumbleBrag. So, and now looks like the rest of their team maybe is going away as well. So I guess that's actually going to wrap it up for us.
A somewhat inglorious end to the Scrim Knights block. But regardless, these are, sometimes things happen, but it will be a 2-1 end, I think, here for Armor GG in this scenario. So, unfortunate to say the least on that particular ending, but you know, timings being what they are, it's perhaps unfortunate. That said, two good showing. I think we saw some good gameplay here from these two teams.
Yeah, I think we did. I really liked what we saw from Armor GG, and I think HumbleBrag was just trying out a lot of people, and how the slight nerfs that were brought in were going to make a difference on some of the characters. D.Va, like you said, doesn't feel like a lot changed as far as what she was doing. I don't feel players were maybe they were a little less aggressive, but it didn't seem like it affected their aggression a whole lot. And then for the Zenyatta, the Zen was still a pretty good pick and still could win fights.
Definitely. I mean, again, these were not major nerfs. They were somewhat minor in how they were sort of approached. So Zenyatta with a 50% charge time. So I think right now his left click is the same as his right click in terms of how you go about using it. So there's some of that. Of course, D.Va with a slightly less just sheer damage output. I think we saw it a little bit. There wasn't nearly as many self-destructs being used tonight as sometimes there often are, because D.Va just, you know, pumping out damage. But you know, I think in all actuality, the only thing that we really noticed in terms of like the patch changes was Blizzard World, where I think the changes definitely help both teams on the attacking side.
Yeah, I agree 100% on that one. And it's funny how like sort of maybe the biggest change is to a map as far as what's being changed, but it was a much needed change, and makes Blizzard World, at least, you know, I still think it's one of the maps that's probably on my least favorite list, but it makes it a little bit less of a grind and as difficult as it was. So I think that was good to see. And I don't think these I guess you could call them maybe wellness like nerfs that were done to some of these characters that were maybe a little bit too strong. They didn't overly nerf them, but they didn't, they didn't make it where the characters were completely different. And I think that's sort of a good balance that you have to need sometimes when you do these nerfs.
Certainly, you will get your full taste of different hero or same heroes changing different play styles in the next patch, or the next PTR cycle, of course, where I believe Hanzo's the next one getting a rework. So there is that to look forward to. And actually, before we head out, for those who are unaware, next week a new map will be released into the PTR cycle. So we have that to look forward to as well in our future. But in the immediate future, I think we are somewhat done for the night, I believe.
Yes, but it's definitely been a pleasure, LaFon, and of course, thanks to V-Flight for being our producer here tonight as well. It's definitely been a fun one here, man.
And Lobosco, to you, the same as well. I mean, no one could ask for a better partner in this regard.
All right, well, that's going to do it here for us. We'll see you next time on Scrim Nights, of course. Just be sure to come back here to broadcast.gg. We've got scrims going on all week that you can watch and see some very high-level play. But that'll do it here, and we'll see you next time.
I won't look down when we crash. I bought a one-way ticket to space. Let's get out of here. I heard you, but it's nice this time of year. You turn my world on its axis. Out here where anything happens. Sound the alarm in my heart. We're taking off. Sound the alarm in my heart. We're taking off. Don't let go, I want your body around, all around, all around. Sound the alarm in my heart. We're taking off. Nothing really matters when our love is made of nada. Diamonds start to shatter till we're out of control. Nothing really matters when our love is made of nada. Got me spinning faster till I'm out of control. Sound the alarm in my heart. We're taking off. Sound the alarm in my heart. We're taking off. Don't let go, I want your body around, all around, all around. Sound the alarm in my heart. We're taking off. We're taking off. We're taking off.
Loud and clear.
Early in the morning, right before the break of day, I'm lying here beside you, trying to think of something to say. You're gonna have to leave soon, so I'll give you this heart of mine. It means I'm gonna miss you every time, 'cause I can't get used to letting you go when the tears roll down your face. Let me tell you, darling, we're gonna find a place where we can lay low, where we can get high, where we can run away, we can go today, we can leave the world behind. So honey, let's go, let's do what we lost, do all the things that we've been dreaming of. So glad that you came back. Years already passed us by, but I know I can trust you.